Awesome. Thanks, Sam, and thanks everyone for joining and taking the time wherever you are in the world. Yeah, so today we are just going to cover primarily our cycling holidays is the sort of focus that we've got, and highlighting um, sort of our favorite trails at Adventure South. And yeah, obviously, please just fire away any questions as they come up because I'm sure that they will pop up. But hopefully, we can sort of cover the highlights and yeah, anticipate what you might be wondering. So just going to quickly just run through a few bullet points just to sort of summarize what we'll be going over. But obviously, cycling in New Zealand is the primary focus today. A real passion of myself and the people I work with, and the people that we share our activities with all around New Zealand. And so I want to talk a little bit about the question around which island to choose, because I know that's sometimes a choice for a lot of us that don't have perhaps the time or capacity to cover both islands. So we can talk a little bit about that in terms of highlights of both of those. What are the New Zealand Great Rides? A little bit about the seasons and the weather. That's always a big question about New Zealand, and when is the right time and all of those sorts of things. And then we're going to cover just in a little bit more detail three of our most popular trails, which are part of the New Zealand Great Rides, which I will speak about. The first being the Alps to Ocean, the Otago Central Rail Trail, and the West Coast Wilderness. All three of those trails are on the South Island. I wish we had time to cover all of the trails that we operate on, including the North Island trips, but yeah, I kind of had to pick a few favorites, and so yeah, cycling in New Zealand, is something that I guess is one of the activities, obviously, that you can take on here. There's so much to do in this incredible country that I've been fortunate to live in for quite a long time now, and I just refuse to leave now. And the primary reason in terms of activity is the cycling here, and it truly is, in my opinion, the best way to experience New Zealand and just the landscapes, the culture, the people. Yeah, it's just such a great way to travel and see a place, I feel, in terms of the pace that you get to do that. So we've just been very fortunate to have such an incredible network of purpose-built trails that do link up all of the landscapes that we have here, from the mountains to the lakes, to the vineyards to the coastlines. It's yeah, a pretty special place in that, yeah, we have invested a lot here to link up these trails to these spectacular places, and just provide such a variety of scenery, so you can just keep coming back and doing more that's just quite different, which is pretty cool. So yeah, 2,500 kilometers of scenic rides on the Naharenga network, which is pretty incredible. And they're just continuing to develop and improve and link up different sections of trails yeah, sort of bridge different gaps around both islands, which has just been an incredible effort, and has just done so much for just the communities surrounding them as well, which we'll go into. Um, and again, it's adventure with comfort and authentic connection year round. And that's the great thing about the cycle trails is, and the network of them is, there's sort of something you could do any time of year, which is pretty amazing given, winter in New Zealand has a lot shorter days and the temperatures are a little bit cooler, but there's always a place that you can go to sort of capitalize on the highlights of whatever season that it is. And generally adventure always comes with that. So yeah, in terms of which island to choose, we've only got two, so there's a 50-50 chance you're going to have a great time, and well, 100% chance you'll have a great time. But yeah, there's sort of only two ways you can go, and that's the north and the south. And they are quite different. So for those of you that haven't been to New Zealand, it is a big question of, which island should I do? And that's kind of the unique thing about being so close together, but they are just so unique. And so, yeah, I've kind of highlighted a few of, sort of the main differences, I suppose, or some of the highlights of the two. And yeah, the North Island is really known for its rolling hills, dense rainforest, beaches. I mean, we're small islands, so there's beaches all over the place, but they really and truly are magnificent. In the temperate climate, I think is one to highlight in that it is a bit more mild in some ways, particularly in the cooler months. It doesn't get quite as cold up there. So that's just something to consider for those that maybe do feel the cold a little bit more in those sort of shoulder months outside of the peak of summer. And then, really rich culturally. It's something that you don't get as much on the South Island as you do on the North Island. And yeah, on our North Island tours that we do try and, incorporate a lot of the Maori culture, and so which is pretty special because there's just a lot more opportunity to experience that up there. And again, the back roads there that are sort of off the cycle trails, we're able to utilize just those quiet back roads that are pretty special. And then the South Island, I feel like it's the one that gets a lot of the showcasing in the marketing and that sort of thing. That's your big mountain landscapes, your glacial valleys, your turquoise lakes. That's something we really just enjoy down here, and just design itineraries all around those landscapes, because and try and provide different ones to see it in a different light in different ways. And I think that's one of the great things that the great rides provide is opportunities to see these landscapes and sort of in different ways. And that's one of the great things about our rides and our itineraries is, we focus on the cycling, but we often try to incorporate a little walk or something to give you a different perspective of these landscapes, because they are just so special. And again, the purpose-built cycle trails, meaning that they were designed and they were built to be cycled on. These weren't designed for walkers necessarily, and so yeah, they are sort of they're graded for cycling, from beginner to a bit more advanced, which is pretty special. And then again, you may have heard of just the renowned night skies that we have here. The Alps to Ocean travels through one of the dark sky reserves that is just world class, and particularly in kind of the shoulder seasons or the shoulder months of summer, when you have a little bit more of that night sky, because the peak of summer, the daylight hours are just a lot longer. You can really experience those starry skies, which are pretty special. And again, the world-class vineyards that we have here within our itineraries, we always try and include a tasting or two and opportunities for you to explore those. And just simply riding through them and past them is just a spectacular sight. So, yeah. And the New Zealand Great Rides, that's just to go through quickly kind of what those are. You may have heard of the New Zealand Great Walks, which is a network of walking trails that we have throughout both islands that have been developed for people of all abilities, and the Great Rides are similar to that. These 23, which are premier cycling trails. This vision first sort of happened back in about 2009, when it was kind of the origin of it was to kind of obviously promote health and recreation and capitalizing on the beautiful scenery that we have here, as well as taking these trails through the local communities and trying to create opportunities for local communities as well, which it certainly has done, which has been really, really special for the whole of New Zealand, and has gotten so many people on board with the cycling community that maybe wouldn't have been involved in this sort of activity. And so it's really just like brought together a whole community and a whole country. And then again, with bringing tourism into that, it's just, yeah, it's been a really special thing to be a part of. Um, so, and again, obviously they're extremely scenic, purpose built, and there is a variety of surfaces that they incorporate for all different skill levels. So they range from, sort of easy graded cycle trails like the Otago Rail Trail, to the more single track sort of style of like the Timber Trail up in the North Island. And so just a lot of diversity there. And again, just with the landscapes, the coastlines, the forest, the mountains, and the rural heartland, it's all incorporated within these just incredible great rides. Seasons and weather. The big question that a lot of people have is when's the best time to book? When's the best weather? I wish I could just give you the magic formula for when the best seasons and the best weather is. And I would have to say it's really just any time because we are a little island in the Pacific and weather, can be, yeah, I suppose a little bit more challenging at times, but usually with those challenges, you're sort of seeing New Zealand in its element. And, oftentimes those challenges might open up to see fresh snow on the mountains, which is something, you can see down in that right-hand corner. That was obviously on a trip that was likely in summer and then, had a little bit of fresh snow on the hills and then just creates for an incredible ride in the morning. And so, yeah, every season does offer highlights yeah, from quiet early season to the late autumn when the leaves are changing, and I think our sales team here, if you have any questions around that, they're great at sort of answering, particularly around what your availability is, around what time might be the best to suit you and whatever your preferences are. So yeah, and there's always the potential for all the seasons in a day. If you're just someone that loves all four seasons, we can generally try and arrange that if that's your preference as well. So let's talk a little bit about the Alps to Ocean Trail, which is one of our most popular cycle trails that we offer as an itinerary, and probably one of the most popular just in general for people to ride, and that's on the South Island. Um, and it truly is an Alps to ocean cycleway. So starting up at Aoraki Mount Cook, which is the highest peak in New Zealand. So you're not starting at the top of Aoraki, you're starting at the base. Alternatively, there's what they call an alternate start, which starts at Lake Tekapo, which is just equally as spectacular. That it rides 315 kilometers all the way to the Pacific coast. And so we offer that itinerary in a couple of different capacities between 6 and 7 days. So yeah, a little something to suit everyone. So we call the 6 day trip that we do the classic, which starts from Lake Tekapo and finishes in Oamaru at the Pacific coastline. Whereas our end-to-end Alps to Ocean starts at the official start up at Aoraki Mount Cook, which is you take a quick ride on a helicopter over the river to the start of the trail. And then, yeah, again, those 315 kilometers down to the Pacific Ocean. And that is, it's got those turquoise lakes, those rolling golden tussock fields and plains, and just passing through all the little rural towns that always have something special and unique with them, and often a pretty cool little pub experience, or some unique little activity or wine tasting or something like that along the way. And then yeah, finishing in the Oamaru Harbor Precinct, which is quite well known. It's a Victorian precinct with a lot of history there, and a great place to finish and dip your toes in the ocean, or if you're like some, might even have a little dip at the end. And so, yeah, included in that is it says there, just local food, local wine. There's an opportunity for hot tubs and that stargazing along the way. So just a couple of shots that were taken along the trail that you can see there up in the right-hand corner. That's a really special feature that we ride past and generally either have lunch at or stop and have a look, called Elephant Rocks, which are these incredible rock formations that you can see there. And then down in the bottom left-hand corner, that's up at Rocky Mount Cook National Park. And that's just one of the little sidewalks that we do to sort of break up the trip and get the walking legs moving a little bit. So pretty special. Yeah, a couple of more photos there, just showcasing the helicopter flight that it's only a very short one just over the river, but pretty exhilarating. They always are, the old helicopters. Um, the bottom right-hand corner, that's Lake Aho, which we, depending on the itinerary, you might have lunch up at the lodge there, and that's close to where the high point of the trail is, the Tarn Brace Saddle that you cycle over, which is often a highlight for a lot of people. And again, these are the three itineraries that we offer at Adventure South to ride the Alps to Ocean in its entirety. So the classic, again, is our most popular itinerary, covering 6 days, starting from Lake Tekapo and finishing at Oamaru. And that trip starts and finishes in Christchurch. And the Alps to Ocean end to end, that's the one, 7 days, and that's the one that does the official start up at Rocky Mount Cook, and again finishes in Oamaru, and it starts in Queenstown and finishes in Christchurch, which is, yeah, kind of cool to be able to start your trip there and take sort of a different approach to the Alps to Ocean. And then the Taste of the Alps to Ocean is one of our more recent itineraries where we try and really showcase the local food and the local wine of the region, whilst also, doing some incredible cycling. And so it's, sort of caters to those people that are a little bit more of a foodie background, I suppose, or have a foodie interest. It's a really special tour. So you can check those out on our website. Then we have the Otago Central Rail Trail, the original of the cycle trails. So, it was actually the first major off-road cycle trail that was developed back in the year 2000. So it was before the New Zealand Great Rides were even dreamed of, I suppose. And it follows the historic rail route through Central Otago's Golden Heartland. And so being that it was a railway, would sort of translate to that the grade is it a beginner sort of grading? So it's an incredible trail to do with, maybe if you're coming along with friends and family that maybe aren't quite as fit or as comfortable riding on a bike for a couple of days. It's just, quite gentle through there. And 152 kilometers, traffic free. And it starts, the beginning of the trail is in a little township called Clyde and finishes in Middlemarch, which is, yeah, both of those. And the areas that they go through, again, that just highlighting that the local communities that these trails go through have just been completely revived because of these trails. And the Otago Central Rail Trail is just one of those that really has demonstrated that. Some of the highlights that you go through are, tunnels and viaducts, and obviously the little country towns, and just experiencing kind of the quaintness of those. And we even do some curling down in one of the little towns called Naseby on one of the nights, which is a really special experience. And so, yeah, just again showcasing just that southern hospitality that we have in the South Island, and some very interesting and fun pub meals to be had as well. Again, just a few photos sort of showcasing a bit of the scenery there. You can see one of the tunnels, which is pretty cool. And the viaducts. Yeah, a bit of four seasons in a day there, you can see in all four photos. Just such incredible country. Yeah, really, really unique down there. I just love it. And these are two of the itineraries that we have that incorporate the Otago Central Rail Trail, the main one being our 5-day classic one And then the Coweta Gorge, Dunstan, and Otago Rail Trail is another extremely popular trip that we have that incorporates a few of the other great rides as well. And last trail to sort of mention and talk about a little bit is taking us over to the west coast of the South Island, and this is the West Coast Wilderness Trail, which is just so unique and so spectacular. It's hard to say what my favorite trail is, and as I kind of have been looking through the photos and these slides, it's just making me, yeah, want to get out of the office and go take a few days and just kind of revisit some of these places, particularly the West Coast, because of its just pristine landscape that is just so untouched and so rugged. I just absolutely love it. And so we also operate on the West Coast Wilderness Trail and have a couple itineraries that visit this trail, but the primary one being our West Coast Wilderness. Um, and we start the ride in a little town called Ross, and finishing in Greymouth, where yeah, is, and you can do this trail in either direction, but we operate it from Ross to Greymouth. And again, you are just truly exploring the rainforest and getting to experience some of the glacial rivers flowing off of the Southern Alps. And yeah, we stay in a little town called Hokitika, which really showcases just the Wild West coastline, which is, yeah, just incredible. And historic tramways to water races, and a lot of old gold mining routes. There's just a lot of history going on there, which our expert guides talk you through and sort of interpret the landscapes along the way and just provide a lot of the intel into some of that history, which is pretty special. So, and just, yeah, the towns that we stay in, it's not an understatement to say that they are friendly little towns that just look forward to having cyclists coming through. And, it can be a bit wetter over there, just the nature of having rainforest. It does require rain. And so, but what's pretty special about it is the area is sort of set up to bring you in when you might need that hot drink or that warm fire, and they love offering those types of things down on the West Coast. And yeah, just the unique pub experience and just the general just West Coast hospitality is just something really special. And I always just, yeah, really enjoyed getting over to that side of the South Island. So, oh, it's just, yeah, that photo in the upper left-hand corner is just got to be one of my favorites. Yeah, we probably plaster all over the place, but I still look at it and just am blown away. You can see just, yeah, some of the coastline there and the Southern Alps in the bottom left-hand corner sort of peeking out. Really special. Yeah, you can see the Transalpine Railway, which runs from Greymouth all the way through to Christchurch and is one of the most scenic train rides in the world, really. You can see just those glacial rivers flowing through that special turquoise that, yeah, you get from that glacial silt. Too tricky to choose. It's always it's a good problem to have, I suppose, is, which one should I do? I'm excited about all of them. And so we have these two itineraries that I've bullet pointed here: the South Island Great Rides Explorer, which is a 15-day itinerary, which does cover all three of the trails that we just spoke about. So the Alps to Ocean, the Otago Central Rail Trail, and the West Coast Wilderness. And it also includes the Lake Dunstan Trail as well, which are all four great rides. So, getting to include that trip over to the West Coast where we do a little bit more hiking and sightseeing outside of the cycling. So, the 15 days is not just going 15 days hard out on the bikes. We try and break it up, and which is why we've called it the Explorer trip, because it does just sort of encompass those a few more of the other activities and opportunities to just see the landscapes from different perspectives. And then we've got the Best of the South Island Great Rides, which highlights, as it says, 5 of the great rides. And it doesn't go over to the West Coast, that one. It stays primarily around the Central Otago and the Mackenzie region. The Mackenzie region is where the Alps to ocean starts and spends the first couple of days traveling through. And that central Otago region is where, the remainder of the rides that we do in. It's quite a large region, Otago, and it just, yeah, again, showcases just some of those spectacular landscapes that we've been kind of speaking about for the past half hour. And again, that's more of a cycling focused itinerary that we do. So it's a great option if it is feeling too tricky to choose to maybe look at those two itineraries that do cover both of those or all of those rides that we've spoken about. Yeah, so the typical demographic of our riders, I would say primarily we probably have more active retirees, I would say, is probably a typical demographic, but that's not to exclude. We've got all ages that are able, to join, and we welcome on our trips from all different backgrounds. It's not uncommon to have, a mother and a daughter on a trip, or yeah, father and son, or a variety of that, or just a couple of friends joining together. And we also have a lot of single travelers, but I would say that primary demographic is probably that the active retirees. How would we describe the standard of accommodation? So all of our trips are accommodated, so you're not sleeping in tents or anything like that. You're always going to have a roof over your head and a bed to sleep on. And we sort of hover around that sort of that three-star accommodation. Depending on the itinerary, getting into the 4-star as well. And we most of our accommodation is en-suited. There is the odd time, just being in these small towns, where there might be the odd time that there is a shared bathroom, but that's pretty unusual, and we're very clear when that is something that might happen. But yeah, the great thing is that, yeah, we have some pretty cool, unique places that we stay in, these little small towns that are pretty special. How much downtime is there during the tour? In that, yeah, it sort of ranges from itinerary to itinerary, but generally, you're having breakfast, depending again on the day and maybe what the weather is doing, between 7:30 and 8:30, we'll say. And then just spending the day doing your activity of cycling, and maybe that might include a short walk or a scenic drive, or checking out one of the local landscape areas, or something like that. And then generally trying to get into the accommodation in the late afternoon, early to late afternoon, to just provide you that time to sort of, yeah, freshen up and relax and explore maybe the little town that we're staying in before joining the group for dinner. And is it possible to bring your own bike? It sure is. Yes. No, we are happy for people to bring their own bikes, but our sales team, they always have a few questions just to ensure that the bike that you do have is fit for purpose for the trails that we operate on, as well as the trailers that we have to transport your bikes. We just want to ensure that it is going to be a good fit for you. That said, we have a large fleet of rental bikes that we really pride ourselves on, ranging from hybrid mountain bikes to a range of e-bikes, which is probably, yeah, one of the most common questions is, do you have e-bikes? And I can say that yes, we do, and they are incredible if you haven't used one. And they're so amazing because they, say you do want to travel with someone that hasn't had the opportunity to train quite as much or spend as much time on a bike, but you really want to share the experience with them. An e-bike is a great way to be able to share those activities and the landscapes and the places, and and being on a group tour by having that assistance on the bike, which is pretty cool. And you can absolutely join a tour on your own. We have a lot of single travelers coming on our tours, which is a great way to meet people. You know, having a small group tour, like which is what we do. Our group sizes range from 4 to 14 people, and so we always really yeah, don't want people to feel like if they come on solo that they're, you know, going to be traveling solo. It's just a great way to connect with other travelers that are like-minded. So absolutely, you can join a tour on your own, and if you're someone that, you know, wants to have your own room throughout the trip, you know, not wanting to share with another person, you can upgrade to a single supplement, is what we call it, to where you're insured to have your own room throughout the tour. Otherwise, if you're open to sharing a room, you know, we would pair you with someone of the same gender, and, you know, hopefully around similar age, sort of thing. But our sales team will always sort of talk you through that and make sure you're comfortable. Private group tours. This is something I would say we're pretty well known for, and is getting more and more popular as people come and do our tours. You know, perhaps solo or with their partner, and then they go, oh, wouldn't it be great to bring a group of friends back and do another tour? And then they bring their groups of friends back, and they go, well, what else can we do? And so we have one of our sales members, Sue, really specializes in organizing private group tours, and even doing bespoke itineraries for those that, you know, maybe want to experience you know, something outside of what we include in our normal brochured itineraries, if you will. So absolutely, um, we do private groups.
Would you recommend a mountain bike or gravel bike for the tours?
Oh, that's a really good question. And I think to answer that, I guess it's a little bit individual depending on your skill level, because I think, you know, gravel bikes for some of the trails like the Alps to Ocean, you know, what we offer in terms of our rental fleet, if you're not hiring an e-bike, is a hybrid mountain bike, so with front suspension, because it is nice to have that little bit of suspension just for, you know, the duration of the ride, having that little bit of comfort and cushion. And so I would probably recommend a mountain bike over a gravel bike on that trail. um, yeah, would be probably my suggestion, and probably across the board, just to offer that
Yeah.
little bit extra comfort. Awesome. Thank you, Sam. And thanks everyone for tuning in. And yeah, look forward to hearing from you and seeing you out on the trails.